Good afternoon. Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the Synaptic Circle. We are a group of like minds. We gather, we share our human experience, our insight, and we build community based on a common theme or topic among us. And hello to the community. Hello to the chat. Big shout out to Garrel and Jane of Midwest Night Watchers. I see you modding. Hi, Neil Castle Dude. We see you guys in there. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I'm super duper excited because the guest today, our common theme is children. And, but our other big thing is programs, the programs that we're involved in. Either we've created them ourselves, we've stepped into them, or we're developing programs for the New Earth children out there today. So I'm very excited that they accepted to join me today. So first from the East Coast, hello to Miss Sue Fisher of the Peter Pan Learning Centers. Hi, Sue. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thanks for doing. And my other West Coast pal, you may have recognized him from our Kids Health series, Mr. Lawrence August. How are you, Lawrence?
Hello. Hey, Heidi. Hey, Sue. Good to be here. Heidi, that's an awesome intro.
Getting it, right?
Show. I'm hyped. I'm super excited for
it. Does what it's supposed to do.
It does. It does. The adrenaline is up.
Awesome. Well, good. Well, we'll keep it up, but we'll keep it positive. I'm all about those solutions. I'm all about talking with like minds, those who are walking the walk, talking the talk, who are being the solution out there. And when it comes to our kids, I thought today's topic would education programs to enrich. And I think that's so imperative because I get asked a lot lately about the learning center I work at, or the different types of enrichment programs out there. And some parents are even asking, can I just do multiple programs and can that be the journey, the educational journey? So we're going to talk about all those things. So I think first and foremost, Sue, I want to ask you about the Peter Pan Learning Centers. And it's been in your family for some time, but this is something that you run and you operate and you work primarily with early childhood. Do you want to tell us just a little bit about that journey? About the centers?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we just have the one center. We serve ages infant through 5 during the school year and through 10 for our summer camp session. I personally have been part of Peter Pan Learning Center since 1992. I was going through college for my degree in early childhood and had an opportunity, just was looking for something for, a job where I was going to college. And started here and just as an assistant, then became a teacher. And when I graduated from college, became the director in January of 1995. And like I said, started here in 1992. And in 1995, I started dating one of the owner's sons. And he and I were married for 20 years. And he and I ran it together. But I have owned it 100% since 2017. So, in these 30 years, obviously there's been some changes, but early childhood education is definitely something that I have always been passionate about since it's the very first core memories that I have as a young child. I just always knew that working with children was going to be it was my purpose, whatever that looked like. It was definitely going to be with children. We have about our capacity is 81 children. So we have 75 children and about 25 staff members. So,
wow. Yeah. And that's the facility behind you.
So that's the facility.
Beautiful grounds.
Us, which is actually our house is attached to it as well. So we have 6 classrooms, indoor classrooms, and then our house is attached as well.
Oh, that's convenient.
Cool. It is convenient. It is. Awesome. So many levels, personally and professionally. It's amazing to be able to be right here all the time.
That's beautiful. Oh gosh, yeah, I have so many questions about the longevity and what you've seen. I want to first share though, Lawrence, I know you've worked with Operation Tone Up, Team Tone Up within the LA schools, bringing in the fitness programs, but you're currently working with Rainbow Chefs Academy. Do you want to download us a little bit about each of those?
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for a quick recap, I know people that have been following our show, Heidi, you might know my background, but I'll recap it for this particular show. I got into kids, and with Operation Tone Up, it was an interesting avenue in because it was actually, through music. My stepbrother started a nonprofit in 1995 called Accept the Challenge, and the flagship program was Operation Tone Up. And he had, been very successful with this, doing live events. He was using, copywritten music, and he wanted some of his own original music. I'm a songwriter. Heidi knows this. And he had reached out to me. This was in 2006, 2007, to do original music for the program. And that was my entry into this. So I didn't necessarily come into this world from the education side. My background, though, was also in nutrition. So one of these interesting people with like music and nutrition as a background. In that experience, though, working with Tony and Operation Tone Up, I really wanted to get my hands on the other aspects of the program, especially the workbook, the nutrition. So I helped rewrite that, helped him develop a variety of different programs, and continued that relationship. During that time, I ended up getting a job as a nutritionist at the Center for Integrative Medicine here in LA. So he kind of put me onto his board in that capacity. So it was this interesting way that I ended up kind of being involved with him. Rainbow Chefs Academy. I mean, so this goes back 2006, 2007, like I said. Rainbow Chefs Academy has been the last 2 years, and it was actually, the CEO founder of Rainbow Chefs who saw me on LinkedIn,
Oh, wow.
involvement with Operation Tone Up Accept the Challenge. She loved what that program was doing. She was kind of scouting out things online before we connected. And that just started with just being on her board. She wanted to bring me on the board kind of from the nutrition standpoint. And then the last 2 years now, I kind of got my hands on everything, business development and whatnot. Separate to that, Kids Get Healthy, which you see the logo in the background. That was something that I pivoted to during the pandemic when everything was shut down. I started Kids Get Healthy, kidsgethealthy.com. And that was so that I could provide a service to people online, virtual nutrition consultations for children, families mostly, and mostly moms, but some dads too get involved. Rainbow Chefs, to talk about a little bit about what Rainbow Chefs is. Rainbow Chefs, we do have, in curriculum aspect to the program. So, it's NGSS and Castle Align and Common Core and all that, kind of standard align. But our bread and butter has been enrichment, after school, summer camps, kind of a busy time for us right now as we're prepping for that. Heidi, you've been a part of it. Actually, let's just mention that real quick.
I did do an event.
Healthy Helper
I did.
Heidi did
Yeah,
an event.
it was so cool. I got to see you in action, but we did an event in a classroom down in
charter
LA,
school.
downtown.
Yeah, at Synergy Academy, downtown LA. And
that was exciting.
It was. And so, our objective, obviously, health, wellness, nutrition is what we teach. We also have a unique aspect of manners and etiquette, which I think sets us apart a bit. And it's something that I really love. I think that that's a fun part of what we teach. And I'm really excited actually to learn more because, as I've been in this space, learning more about enrichment, homeschooling, what's out there, alternative schooling, Montessori, all of these things it really interests me. So I'm looking forward to the conversation with
Yes.
you. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I know I'm like, I knew it would flow the way it's supposed to flow, but I do want to probably start with the yesteryear, like especially Sue, with the longevity that you've been in this early childhood program. Is there any big difference you see from back then versus today? Like what kind of needs are different today in today's world?
Well,
and
I will say that some of the things that kind of come to mind with that, the obviously technology has changed the family dynamic. Things such as sports, the emphasis on sports has changed, I think, the family dynamic, where it used to be the norm was families had a family dinner together, something as simple as that. That really doesn't happen. And Lawrence, I'm sure that's something that you
I'm gonna,
right?
my head's gonna come off from nodding so hard.
I was like, yes, like that is something that families really need to be educated on, and the importance of that. And it's not just sharing a meal. There's so many different things that happen when a family comes together for something like a meal, even the cooking together. I mean, there's so many aspects to it. So it, I can definitely feel like the family as a whole, what that looks like has changed profoundly over the years, because of some of those different elements that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And of course, you see that with your clients today, right, Lawrence? You're seeing
Yeah.
you're
Yeah. I
just
mean,
asking them to sit and have a meal together. Like
sure.
that's
It's
like
it's
homework.
huge. You want to be able to have that connection time, and it goes beyond just the food. But
Hmm.
there is the aspect of prepping a meal together, sitting down. With people's schedule nowadays, and again, disruption in the family and different things, we don't see that as much. So it is something that I actually address right up front, as far as things I'm going to cover and what the expectations are before we even get into proper sessions of like, here's some of the things that I focus on.
Mm-hmm.
And we've done several shows on this, Heidi, even
Hmm.
where we've talked about the
Yeah, the
importance
concealed
of the
stuff.
family
Yep.
and eating together. Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever we can.
Well, even just speaking with food, and again with Sue, with you with early childhood, you said you've been introducing this garden that you've been creating now. So you are introducing them at a very young age where
Yes.
their food's coming from, and how has that program unfolded for you? How has it been
So,
received?
I mean, it's fairly new. We only started it in October, which in Maryland, you're very limited on what you can plant in October. But it has been a beautiful process. So obviously, we are, very excited about the idea of planting our own food and having that some organic food, that because obviously what you can buy now isn't all that great. So we've always just as a family thought about wanting to do it, and time kind of always gets in the way. You always make excuses for those things, and we were fortunate to run into a beautiful human, actually at a natural spring that we have by our home, and he and Zach built this greenhouse. So it's been a beautiful process for the children to be able to see what a greenhouse even is. They helped plant the seeds. They have helped water. They made little nameplates for each of the vegetables that we have had down there. Our older ones, our fours and fives have charted the process. They've gone down with their little clipboards and their paper and drawn pictures of what it looked like, when the seeds started to sprout, and then what they look like. We just, Zach and I did a fairly decent harvest on Friday and put out a bunch of items that, where we put out beets and cilantro and some lettuce that we had, and just put it open for the parents to be able to have some, and asked for them to send us a picture if they, were enjoying it as a family. And we've had some families do that for us. And we just think it's a really cool process, because so many families are so rushed with meals, and they're certainly not thinking about, where does this lettuce come from? Where does this vegetable come from? So it's been a really cool process. We're still learning. It's only been 6 months, but it's been really, really fun for ourselves to be able to. We ate salads all winter long in Maryland, like fresh lettuce and arugula and spinach from our greenhouse. And it's been really great. And to be able to see the children be excited about seeing how everything has grown it's been beautiful.
Oh, cool.
I love
Bravo to
that
that.
part. And I love it. You even said you're learning as you go too, because I think that's great for kids to see that. They're like, you know what? I'm going to learn alongside you. So there's an equal playing field. There's no pressure, no stress. I think that's really sweet. And when you say early childhood, I'm familiar, but will you tell viewers what your age range of your school is?
Sure. So during the school year, we have infants through age 5. So we have so in Maryland, you have to be 5 by September 1st to go to kindergarten. So we have what we call a transition program. So for children that do not meet that September 1st deadline. So they're 6. Most of them are 6 by the time they leave us. And then during the summer camp, we can take up to age 10. So when I say
nice.
Early childhood, I mean, typically that, as far as college is concerned or certification, goes up to 3rd grade. But we take up to age 5 during our school year.
And you're still pretty packed with that. And the families you see, are these families that have, either one parent households or two parents and they're both working full time, or
Typically, it is both parents are working. I mean, we have some, very few. I mean, out of 75 families, I think we maybe have 3 or 4 where the mom or the dad stays home. So most are dual income families. We're in Maryland. We're right in that DMV area. A lot of government workers. So
Okay.
so yes.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of little chat groups lately and real feisty mamas and papas, and people are super heavily opinionated. And I was on that boat for a little while. I'm like, keep your kid with you, but then I know what it's like having that early childhood kid, and I know what it feels like. And you can't deliver sometimes your dream day for your child. And sometimes stepping into a program where there's so much heart, there's so much care, there's so much put into the actual developmental needs, not what the state says, but what the needs are of the child, that it's worth it. It's a program that,
So
needs to
listen,
be
I mean,
discussed more.
I have to be honest and say that I love the concept of moms staying home with their children, and I love the concept of homeschooling. And I didn't even think about either of those when I had my own children for whatever reason. So I absolutely love and respect and admire moms that stay home and homeschool and all of those things. So for me, what my goal has always been is to provide a school, a family, a community where if the family chooses for both parents to work, we provide an environment where there is that love, there is that nurturing, there is that they are our children. They're not just products of what the government wants. They are our children, and that's how we treat them. And I work really, really hard to create that.
Yay. I love that. That was a beautiful answer.
Especially at that early age.
Pardon?
It especially at that early age. It's interesting that
critical.
September deadline, because I think back, I'm an August baby, and August 18th, and I started kindergarten. I turned 5 and started kindergarten a week later. So I guess I would have.
Do you
missed
remember
that.
anything from kindergarten?
I do.
I remember the enrichment stuff. I remember my hands getting dirty, or the painting, or the activities.
That's what I remember. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
I remember
yes, it was
that.
definitely. It felt like arts and crafts and fun and playing, and that is the way it should still feel. That is the memory that we want our children to have. Not I had to do a worksheet, or I had to sit down and I had to be quiet, or all of those things.
Amen. My stepmother's a retired kindergarten teacher, and she was a teacher for, I want to say, over 30 years. And she really lamented those last few years. This is in Illinois, Heidi, where we're from.
Okay.
Where they put the toys away, they got the kids head down into the books. They're 5. And she was sickened by that. It was really, I remember her going off on several rants about that. And I was less informed then, when she was talking about, than I am now about those cutoffs and age appropriate. Hopefully we can get into that today. But I think age 5, you're still. My understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sue, is that 7. This is what I hear from the Finland, Finnish school model, is like age 7 is where it would be more appropriate to bring in more of the classwork, whereas up till that point it's a lot more exploratory.
It should
curiosity in these things that come out.
It should be. I mean, I think that where we are located in Maryland is probably very similar, Heidi, to where you are. The county that we're in is the 7th richest county in the entire nation. So the parental expectations, demands, those kinds of things can, can blur some of those lines. But yes, Lawrence, I believe everything that you read. Yes, that is what they say. They say, as far as even things as simple as hand preference for where you're holding that crayon, that pencil, that pen, typically isn't supposed to develop until 5 or 6. Yet we have to send our kindergartners to the public schools being able to write their name and all of those things. So it's that ultimate, that's the balance, right? As an early childhood educator, of knowing what is actually developmentally appropriate, because Finland, obviously, like, they have a very successful system across the board. If we understood and practiced those things, I think our children would be a lot happier.
Do what works. Go
Yeah.
figure.
Mhm.
Go figure. That's a thing, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, I see that is a delicate balance you have those two, but the fact is that you're bringing in the gardening and the art and all, those practical skills, and the nurturing, I think, is the biggest thing with early child. As long as you have that nurturing heart
Yes.
and that spirit there, that's the education, letting them, child-led learning, let them explore. And then they are ready and excited to go into that kindergarten with the foundation.
Right.
So some just cannot provide that at home, and that's totally okay. It should be okay, and there should be safe spaces to be able to go to,
Sure.
to have that. Lawrence, what's the youngest client you have? Like your youngest kids that you work with?
Personally, for what
for kids
I
get healthy.
yeah, I usually, it's a sweet spot for me is between 8 and 12 for what
Okay.
I do.
I was just wondering
Um,
when they come to really
Yeah, I
find
mean,
you.
that's kind of like the lane that I found myself in.
Mhm.
Obviously there's situations though where people don't just have one kid, they have
Mhm.
multiple children. And so I'm kind of concerned with the household in general as one ecosystem. So, yeah, the child that I'm working with directly might be 11 or 12, but they got a little kid sister, 4 years old. They got a baby that just showed up, that got to check in on those dynamics all the time. It plays out into what my recommendations are going to be and how to solve those individual circumstantial problems, multiple food allergies, food intolerances, different
Oh,
food
yeah.
preferences, different schedules. She's got ice skating at 3:00 and Bobby's got basketball. And, so handling all that, when the family's juggling those things, that's other things for me to juggle, because I'm having
Gotcha.
to help them make sense of it to create something that's going to work in a healthy way. Like I
Mhm.
said, I'm bringing health into the home. That's kind of my thing, right?
Mhm.
So
And
so
yeah.
there's different ages, but 8 to 12, to answer your point directly.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot for
And
children
what
that I'm working
about with Rainbow Chefs going into the schools to do the lunch programs? That's more elementary schools?
So what we do, it's not so much lunch. It's
Okay.
a separate,
It's the
standalone.
program,
Yeah,
like
I mean, the food
standalone
directors
program.
handle the lunch. Sometimes there's
Okay.
some crossover with what goes on within schools with that, but
Okay.
with our program, it's actually K to 12. So Rainbow Chefs anywhere from
K to
K
12.
to 12. Yeah.
Okay.
And there's proper curriculum. There's like 4 different age groupings within that. So yeah, that's pretty broad. Obviously, the older kids, you're focusing on different things, but at the primary level, they're learning their basics and bear claw techniques and cutting and So yeah, K to 12.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wondering, Sue, would you ever, early child is your specialty, do you see the need for your learning center? Would you ever expand to, or does that a whole nother bag of stuff?
That's a whole nother bag of stuff.
Okay.
We have certainly over the years had many, many, many families say,
They're like,
please,
I
please,
bet,
please offer
Mhm.
elementary. But that's a whole nother,
It's a whole
Yeah.
nother
that's a
avenue.
whole
Yeah.
nother bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Do you have,
kids,
yeah,
it's like there's a lot
what,
within that category.
absolutely. Well, I guess where I'm going at with it is to talk about now about the different programs and merging them in to create that educational journey. So, with your children in early childhood, they're getting ready for this kindergarten program. I'm sure you have sister schools or places you recommend, or if they have to go into their neighborhood state one, they do. But do you have like alternative type of elementary schools or maybe charter schools or something looking to you to
So
see?
in our area in particular, if you want to say the public schools in our area are good public schools, and I'm going to put quotes around that, and everyone kind of knows what that means.
Air quotes.
Yeah, air quotes. Good public schools. So the majority, I mean, I would say the majority of our clients do send their children to the public schools in our area. There are some other good private schools, which we definitely saw an uptick in families choosing a private school over private when the pandemic was going on, just because our public schools were obviously, they were shut down for a year and a half. It was all virtual. So there were some families that went, you know what, this isn't what's best for my child, and I'm going to go ahead and pay for them to go to a private school. But we take a lot of pride in partnering with the public schools to find out what the children should know when they go in, which unfortunately so much is around social emotional development and not so much, oh, this is what they should know as far as the academics are concerned. Because although, yes, academics are important at this age, we really focus on the social emotional development. So what are they prepared to go into whatever next environment they're going into? Because inevitably is going to be more children and less adults when they go into that, kindergarten, that formal education. So we just work really hard on making sure that they feel good about themselves and they can speak up for themselves and they can ask questions and that they are inquisitive and those kinds of, really important.
So important. Yeah, super important. Our learning center is kindergarten through 8th grade. But they will have these conversations with parents when the child is in kindergarten saying, I know you see that your child age, appropriate for 1st grade, but emotionally and socially, we don't think that's a good idea. They've had to have those conversations. And then you see the child thrive later on. I have a little girl in my 3rd grade that happened to her in kindergarten. She was kept an extra year, not because of academic, but socially. And I could never picture her in a year older. She'll be eaten alive. Like
Right.
it was, and those are tough conversations to have. You have to have parents in a community that trust you and that have respect for you enough to hear your opinion. Do you do like parent teacher conference?
We do twice a year. We do parent conferences, but communication is a huge part for us. So we take a lot of time every single day talking to the parents. So
awesome.
I know that it's different, from state to state and even from center to center, but we welcome our families into the building. They do the drop off, they do the pickup, and it's really important to me and to the staff to form those bonds with the parents so that we know what's happening in their family. Like it is truly a community, what we have here. And it's with a partnership. Like you cannot do what's best for a child if you do not have the right partnership with their families. So we talk to them in the mornings, we talk to them in the evenings, just so that we have that, have that relationship.
Right. I just stopped because I see a question in the chat. Jean-Paul Baptiste for Lawrence. What if a child's screaming? You mean screaming at him? Like, stop talking to me.
If the child is screaming at me?
What would you say? How would you handle it, Lawrence? Or maybe all of us. What's our bit? Because that's a good different, depends on their age, right?
The first thing is you have to meet it with the understanding that they're struggling and that they're suffering, and meet it with empathy. So that's the first thing, is not to actually see that as any kind of a problem necessarily, but more as an indication that something is, that they're have an inability in that moment to cope with whatever it is. So, and validate that right away. You must be really hurt if you're screaming like that. Please, can you tell me? Can you tell me why you're hurting? I've seen that all. If I'm obviously, you can think about it. If you're an 8-year-old child and mom says you got to talk to some guy about that's not fun. And right up front, in that initial process, we've had this talk, Heidi, before about motivational interviewing and this idea of kind of meeting children where they're at. And I'll ask them, on a 1 to 10, how excited are you to be here? And if it's a 0 and you want to run away right now, let me know. If it's a 10, you're super excited. Sometimes we're like 2, and I'm like, that's okay. That sounds great. I got a 2, so why wasn't it a 0? And so it's that same idea of saying, maybe it's just an emotional dysregulation in the moment, and not to get caught too much up in the idea of it's a scream, That's just the manifestation of whatever is going on inside. Once you validate their feelings, that's my approach, and that tends to work 9 out of 10 times, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's okay too. Oh, we'll try again tomorrow.
There
But
you go.
there's nothing wrong. Like the thing of like, why are you crying? Stop screaming. What? Yeah, that's gonna fail 10 to 10
Aw,
times.
yeah.
So
I hope
that's my
they answered John Paul. I know he was
yeah.
saying, well, it's the energy that is present. Yeah, he's working with the
Yeah.
energy that's present. Yep.
I tend to just absorb it, and I
Aw,
don't take it personal. Yeah,
okay.
I don't take it
Great
personal.
question
Yeah,
here from
that's an
Mr.
awesome question,
Zach.
though.
Yeah. Well, here's another one back to food for both of you, probably. What's a good snack can be provided by a child care center? Oh, I love that. We do
I don't know if
snacks a lot too
Sue,
because we're
if
outside.
you have an idea. I mean, I could swing at that. I mean,
Well, I think it's a great question, and one that I would love for you to give some suggestions on that.
yeah,
Obviously, again, there are rules and regulations that we have to follow as a
yeah,
center on what we serve. So at our
yeah,
center,
Gotcha.
we provide a morning and afternoon snack, and the parents provide their own lunch. But we do struggle with what are healthy snacks that we can offer that meet the regulations and the children will actually eat.
yeah. You're
That's
going.
kind of where our struggle lies.
There is a huge struggle. I'm guessing one of the bigger barriers for you, Sue, could be the allergens.
Is that a big
That
one?
could be an
Yes,
issue.
that's been a big change. I mean, to the extent where we don't typically do anything with like peanut, but other than that, so any children that
That's
we
pretty
have
good.
with food allergies, the parents provide their snacks.
Yeah, if you're of understanding of what the children need and what they can't have, and then what they can, that obviously informs what the answer to the question is. Because if it's something like half the kids can't do dairy, then maybe like having string cheese might not be a good option. But
Right.
it's a great something like string cheese or nuts, minus peanuts, which are technically a legume, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Um,
Protein, you're saying.
trail mix it
Protein.
something protein. Protein could usually be you want to think of a protein rich snack. Obviously, fruits and vegetables are always great, but protein rich snacks are really good because they tend to satiate, satisfy. Um, there's a lot of reasons for that, and also just kind of prioritizing it from the child standpoint of getting good associations with those foods because that's going to serve them well later. But and depending on if you have like a refrigerator situation or whatever, because if you've got some like boiled eggs to speak of the protein, or that's like sliced turkey or something like that. But just think whole foods as much as you can. Obviously, I would avoid things like the Lunchables and Snackables, which we just saw
Oh,
made the
That was just on the
news
news.
this past
Yeah.
week for lead content. So.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm kind of big on just real whole
Whole
foods,
foods. Yeah. Well,
and
I'm
making sure that that there's not going to be any allergy situations or things like that. No.
I bet Sue too, as your garden flourishes, we that would add a whole new element of stuff because we just planted the beginning of the year. Well, I shouldn't say that. The first and second graders did the seedlings and the sprouts, and then my third graders planted them, and we're tending to it. And all that stuff was growing so incredible. We had Swiss chard and cilantro and different lettuces, and then broccoli started coming out, big florals of broccoli. And we had one little boy, bless his heart, bless his family's heart. He comes to school every day with the exact same lunch, and it's the beige lunch we call it. It's just like bread, a chip. Everything's like beige, and like we're really like trying to give him extra protein for a snack. But that broccoli started popping up, and he's like, "What? What is?" I go, "You can eat everything in here. Try it." And he's loving this broccoli. And I'm like, took a picture and sent it to his mom. I'm like, he really likes the stuff.
Yeah,
Throw
and
it in that lunch.
exposure, right? Because
Exposure.
sometimes
He
like
never had it before.
you'll have and that's another thing that I'll just reiterate and chime in because Heidi, we've talked about food exposure. Is that just a quick thing because this comes up all the time? Is my child won't eat that. And then there's frustration and the tendency is to pull it away. But I would encourage anybody to not pull it away and not actually create a production around it either. There's no like, you must eat this. Child should be able to eat what they want, however, you're dictating what food comes into the house, or in this situation, the center. But what I found and what research shows is the exposure is what matters the most. And so keep swinging, keep it out. In fact, sometimes you'll have situations, say there's 10 kids, and little Johnny has been balking at broccoli for the last 3 weeks. So a smart play that actually works a lot is just serve the broccoli to the other kids and just don't give it to like, we don't want that. I understand. Johnny's gonna want to eat it now.
He's gonna want to
like it's just gonna be like, you're like, wait a minute, hold on, I'll try.
Games.
So, but it's lower the temperature of the situation and then just keep exposing it and be okay if they don't eat it. There's no forcing food on children.
Yes, agreed.
True. Is raw more nutritious than cooked?
It depends on what it is. And then there's digestibility issues as well. Certain things, actually more nutrients unlock when you heat them. So something like tomatoes, like tomato sauce is actually richer in lycopene, for instance, or a soaked or sprouted nut might have more nutritional bioavailability than not. So you'd have to kind of case by case. Some children have digestibility problems, or even adults, anybody, like with like a lot of raw vegetables, and that might actually be another need where, if you've got it might be that they might not take well to raw fruits and vegetables. On the nutrition standpoint, though, there's trade-offs with that. That's not a direct across the board thing, because there's some value to raw live nutrition. But I said in case to case, it could mean, bioavailability or digestibility might be better if you cook it. I would avoid microwave. I'm a bit of a hippie with that. I haven't used the microwave since the 90s.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my red box.
I could go. That's a whole other thing, but
yeah. Well, also there's something to be said too with the hands-on. I think no matter the age too, if they have a part to play in the preparation of it, they may be more apt to try it. And one of our big ones, because we're the outdoor class, so you don't usually give snacks to like third graders, but we're moving all day and they're burning calories all day. They're hungry, little hungry mofos. So I think our biggest hit for universal, every child, was pasta. And I mean, they boiled it, cooked it, they made their own little sauce, they're dicing, they're chopping, they did all the forms to do it. And then the final result was this warm thing that filled them up. Or even just dates. We were working with dates recently, and the mashing of they're like having fun with it. But
dates are cool.
Damn, these are really good.
We
do have a lot of nut butters.
You know?
We don't have any nut allergies, so we do get to play with that. So that with peanut butter, I'm drooling already. It's a really good combo. But mashing them, and especially the little kids, messing with it. Or my core memory was making the edible Play-Dohs and stuff. So everything went in my mouth.
This actually brings up, not to interrupt, but it brings up the texture thing too, because that's actually become
a big deal.
Yeah, and that's actually something to just be on alert for, because there are certain children that have issues with texture. And so, just from anybody that might be listening to this, like if it seems like a child has certain issues with that's actually a thing, and to look into that. And there's actually information resources out there that are specifically for that. So, there's times that I confront that, and I have a bit of a training on it, but there's specialists within this, as far as a food texture.
What's my son with a tongue tie? It took for us the longest time. He just thought he didn't like all these foods. It's like,
exactly.
No, he can't sweep his mouth. He feels like it's stuck in his mouth, and it's so working on all that stuff. I know all these little layers to it all.
These things keep popping up, and I'm like, well, those are the kind of things that can be frustrating. And then if you're aware of it, it's like, oh, we solved that problem now. We didn't have to wait 2 years.
Yeah. This is my favorite. Almond butter honey. Yep. We also
Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, man, my man.
Isn't that awesome? We did this learning block too of just the land we had our class on in the past centuries, and heritage and cultures and things. And we brought out a whole homemade tortilla press, so we made our own tortillas and just had beans and tortillas. But the act of making the tortillas took forever, but that was the lesson. Shaping it the right way, having the right consistency, and then when they can actually do it, everyone tried that.
Remember, Heidi, when we
it was
asked the
tasty.
children at Synergy, when we were doing the 0 to 10, how much they liked the food,
Yeah, I love
and
the
what a great
honesty.
thing to do with the child is what they say. Oh, I don't, some of the kids were just, it was crazy, right? We had some kids loving what we were doing, and other kids were hating it, and the ones that were hating it were way more fun because we could say, well, what would you do to make it better?
Mm-hmm,
It's a great
mm-hmm.
question. You ask a question.
Yes.
It's instead of just judging that they don't like it. Well, how would you make it better? Or what? Tell me a little bit about that. Too much, and it gets them thinking. Like, and they turn them into little chefs. Like, oh, maybe I might add a little salt, or I hated that
Yeah.
olive oil, or that
I
bread's
just
not for
remember
me.
too. Yeah, being in that moment, it was the honesty to raw and not
Yes.
neither of us shot it down. It was like,
No,
thank
all
you
the
for
answers are
telling me
great.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
I wasn't. You remember, Heidi? I was like, I was more excited when they didn't like it because
yeah,
it's an opportunity then for everybody to realize that it's not not the end of the world,
yeah,
and it, it's way more fun to figure out a solution to make something better. That's actually creating, so using it as a teaching moment for critical thinking, for skills, for reasoning.
yes,
Well, and I don't
totally.
think that happens enough. Kind of going back to a little bit about that, the families don't have dinner together anymore. I don't think that a lot of children see their parents cook. They don't participate in that. Oh, well, this is how we slice a potato, and this is all the things a potato can turn into. This is how we cook different things. I mean, even when I was growing up, there wasn't anything such thing as bagged salad, right? My mom got a head of lettuce and she cut it and she peeled the carrot, and children don't understand. They don't see that anymore. So it's so, important for families to kind of come back to that. And I love that concept of giving families an idea of how you can create, healthy meals and that sort of thing.
Absolutely,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
absolutely.
I
That
see too. Go ahead.
No, I was
Sorry.
just saying meal preps like that. It's a great opportunity to
Hmm.
connect and ask these questions and
Yeah,
excite them about making their own
yeah.
meals.
Mm-hmm.
I've been I do this with my own kids. I don't know if Rumble will pull up. I don't know if the audience will see the question, so I'll read it. But for you all to see about choices, I give choices too. Giving them, isn't that an empowerment tool, Lawrence? Giving them a choice. Well, would you like this or this, or
Yeah,
this or this?
absolutely. The magician's
It's
choice, right? It's called the
hmm
magician's choice.
but it's like those two.
Those
You
two,
pick
right?
out which of these three would you like, and all of the choices are put forward by you, and then this way, yeah, you're giving them that freedom of choosing, but they're
Mhm.
choosing with options that you've provided.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's a
that's
great comment on there.
yeah. I do like that. Yeah, and then I mean, I know we're doing a lot of food stuff. What about if we're thinking about consciousness and being a what's how our planet is shifting, how our even the parents are shifting, but more importantly how these children are coming in with so much star knowledge and just bright high vibrational beings. How do either of you see the education systems changing, like unfolding in a new way, or do you plan to, with the early childhood, incorporating any esoteric like meditation, or I don't know, I'm trying to put it to current days a little bit of is there anything we need to do to shift to adapt to these high vibrational beings and for what's
I
happening
have
out there?
definitely seen, I feel like I have seen or been more aware of children coming to us with some of that awareness. And so it's a process, right? So I, as the owner, have to, in my mind, figure out, what does this look like? How are the children coming in? And then I have to educate all of the teachers about it. So they definitely have done, some yoga. We've definitely incorporated with our children. We do a lot of we smell the flower and blow out the candle. So when we're feeling a certain way and feeling frustrated, we're calming them down, playing that soft music, to help relax them. So it's definitely something that I'm just kind of in the beginning stages of, okay, how can we make this feel more organic? And it's just like this crazy little balance of, following the rules, but bucking it just enough so that we're actually giving the children what is developmentally appropriate and actually giving this new wave of children that we have coming in what they will need to be successful in the new world, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm interested in finding out more information and really incorporating that more with our teachers and having them research it more and be more organic.
Mm-hmm. You probably have to vet
Yeah.
your teachers really well about being nurturers and stuff, right?
It
Really.
is. I mean, we work really hard to get an amazing, great group of staff here for sure. But yes, there is. It's a process. It's not. We are different than other centers. We take a lot of pride in the teachers that we hire, because I am not going to hire anyone that I wouldn't have wanted teaching my own children. And it's in too important of a job to just hire a body to fill a space. So oftentimes that means that even I, as the owner and director, if that means I'm in the classroom, if I'm opening the center, that's what I'm going to do to make sure that each classroom has a quality person to maintain, those regulations of the ratios,
Mm-hmm.
but even more so of having an engaged person in the classroom with them. And I love it. I mean, I can't lie. I do love spending time in the classroom. Being in the office is not where I thought I would end up. So I love my time, with my kiddos for sure.
Oh, that's the best. What about you, Lawrence, with the evolving of things?
The evolution, that's an interesting question for me. For Rainbow Chefs, there's not a lot of that positioning on it, because
You're probably going back to the old school, ancient ways of school.
Well, what we're doing is
food.
what we're doing. And now, that being said, on my end, when kids get healthy, it's just me right now for the time being, but it will grow. I look at it as special insights or special talents that children have that I try to pick up on. And I like to lean into those, and I like to shine a light on that, bring that to the attention of the parent. Obviously, I'm filling it out case by case of what that situation is like with the parents that come to me. Thankfully, it's a community that's a word of mouth. Moms, mostly moms, like I said, are talking to other moms, and people sort of like mind end up finding me. And it's a lot of fun to kind of find a trait in a child and nurture it, and then begin to I'll just pivot what I'm going to be working on moving forward, because I like to double and triple down on the strengths of a child. You can build those up, and then there's kind of like a lot of carryover in other areas you found, because the confidence itself matters a lot. You might have a perceivable weakness, but it's just on a spectrum of, they may have innate abilities or proclivities or interests. If you can build that up, the sort of ship rises over here, or whatever those perceived weaknesses are. They tend to just get confidence in something, and then you can always use that as a checkpoint. So if it's 3 months later, you say, remember when we were working on this? Because I'm picking up with them, like, they're going to do really well at this, and I want to get them to get a bunch of wins. And then they have a little history of winning. And then now they're like a winner. They've kind of identified as like, hey, I couldn't do that, but now I can. And, and some of the stuff that children say, we already know that. It's just like, it's like, someone, I think I might have told you this one, Heidi, where I had a client of mine, he was talking to his friend, his buddy, about some food, something that, nutrition related. And his friend said, that sounds gross. And he said to his friend, well, you don't hear food. And it was just like, he told me about this. Like, yeah. So I told him, I said, what do you say? And he said, well, I told him, you don't hear food. Of like, that's just awesome. It's just like, there's just opportunities to find the genius in children. And when you celebrate that, and when you can see that they just get excited by that, then I find that from what I'm doing, that's the closest I think I get to what maybe you're picking up on, Heidi. Is like, we do just like really kind of special beings coming into this planet, but being able to be open to that. I'm always trying to be open to the idea that, there might be a little inkling of something that we can explore, and then go down that trail together. That's how I handle it.
We have a little guy right now. He's 4.5. and he literally has his own language.
That's
Like
awesome.
he calls it
surprised.
Asherese. It is, he understands, he knows exactly what he's saying. He's
Aw.
very bright. And he's taught us a lot about, how different children learn and what their interests are and that sort of thing. I mean, he speaks perfect English, but he also speaks Asherese. So, he's taught us, just to understand, bring each child in where they are and understand, we've got some amazing, amazing children right now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Oh, totally. Taking it even one step more into the woo and Sean Paul, I know you see this too, that multidimensional, the veil's so thin, this multidimensional reality is thin, and some of these children are tapping into these energies. And it's really interesting. I find too, as a educator, there's teachers. You can be educator, mentor, or teacher. But I always thought, and I went to college for early childhood, and it was like, learn the lessons and figure out how to teach the child. And then actively doing it, I'm like, I mostly listen. It's like when you're acting, you have to listen and then respond. It's like with educating them, I think I'm coming in one way. I did my whole laundry list. We go back to school tomorrow and I have everything ready. And I'm like, this will probably be thrown out the window if all those kids come in with a certain energy, or, you just have to be ready to pivot and meet the children where they're at. But their consciousness is coming in just a little more ping, like a little more aware or open. And whether
now,
that's,
where will your interesting question for you, where will your children be when they come back? 2 weeks of spring break, right?
I know.
So they've been, what, in essence, have they been home in theory?
In theory, they have some lessons they were to do. One girl's going to be in Hawaii for another week. I already got that message. Yep. I do a newsletter every week, and before spring break, I gave them a couple tasks. And the thing is, we're at a homeschool enrichment center. So we're not the brick and mortar school with requirements. So it really is up to the parents. You're going to get out of this program what you help your child get out of it.
I love it.
They're with me that times during the day, but what you guys do at home, it's not like it'll all fall apart. I hold them very well, but the actual task of getting the academics out of our enrichment program is on the parents too. And that's where I have this big divide. I have kids who are like, challenge me, give me more, and writing proficiently and cursive and da-da-da. And then others that are like, they're just there for the party. They're just like, what are we cooking today? What's up? What are we going to build? It's like a play date. And I'm just like, wow. And the families are okay with that. So this could lead into the next conversation of the future of education, because I kind of feel like these kind of programs, ours going to 8th grade, and my daughter's in the middle school, the 7th, 8th grade, and some of their families are the same way. The parents are like, you don't have to turn that in, or it's all right. We'll get you into this. And then the others are like sponges taking in the academics, but they're all succeeding, if that makes sense. So I'm curious, between Operation Tone Up and, having an early childhood that's so nurtured and the foundations are there, and then going into 8 year of 3 days here, 2 days here, covering nutrition, fitness, practical skills. Can we do it that way? Can we just do enrichment programs for our educational journey? I kind of feel like we can, but I wonder if that's the pivot that's happening, the old system crumbling and the new system rising. Was there even a question in there? I don't even know what I just said.
Yeah, there's certainly a big shift happening in education. I think all three of us know that, and I mean, and the numbers are saying that too. I mean, traditional education is starting to crumble for a variety of reasons, and so there's certainly, depending, I don't know what the timeline is going to be, like what's on the horizon,
right?
But there's certainly education moving into decentralization, right? And so you're going to have kind of a la carte options and build your own, choose your own adventure. I think it's moving toward that. And so it's a good question of I think we're starting to, the veil is being lifted on what our formal and traditional public school education has brought us. What bang for the buck have we gotten? Not much, considering, right? And the return on investment has been terrible. And it's becoming more and more obvious. I think if we had this conversation 25 years ago, just like a totally different thing. But I
Sure.
think so many more people are waking up to the idea that like there's just more to, and I think the pandemic exposed a lot of that for sure, because you're no longer in that environment, and I think that really did expose a lot of flaws in the show. So I don't have an answer. Probably don't have as good of an answer as someone like Sue, who's been doing this for much longer than I have. But my general take on that is it's absolutely going to look completely different. I just don't know what that means.
Yeah, and I don't know what the timeline looks like. I love the idea that you're suggesting. In Maryland, I feel like it's not anywhere close to that, to the point where Maryland is actually has a program. It's in legislation where they're now going to be providing public school for 4-year-olds and then eventually 3-year-olds. So it's going to be just like kindergarten, and except now they're going to be all the 4-year-olds and all the 3-year-olds eventually. So, which I am personally really struggling with, because that's just more, excuse me for saying, but indoctrination, right? Like it's all about the money. They only want to put the students there so that the schools make the money, not in, and everyone above there.
But you don't see it usually, the money that goes in the schools, right?
No, for sure not.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't see it out
it's
here.
not, Maryland is really, really far behind that concept. Now, I will say that personally, I think that I have heard a lot more people talk about homeschooling and taking that approach, which I'm thrilled about. But in Maryland, there's not a lot of options at all as far as enrichment. There are some charter schools, if you will, but only in the high school level, not in the early childhood level at all.
Do you think there's like it's like a split in the road then, almost like a bifurcation? You think that it's more like instead of like all of us together going one way, it's just like we're going here, they're going. I mean, is that
the
division of it? Because there's a lot of that in all aspects of our society, and then the way algorithms work and people living in our own bubbles. Are people just kind of doubling down on the public school side? Obviously, like Maryland. I mean, it's interesting. You're in the East Coast. We're out here in hippy dippy land in California.
I mean,
so
Maryland, because we are, it's DC and Virginia are right here.
The smell of the government is in the air.
A lot of government. So
and a lot of government kids, she said, are in
right.
here.
So I'm not, I'm not going to go onto that tangent, but you understand what I'm saying as far as that's concerned. So it's really hard for me to see it moving in the direction of, okay, let's make every child just be a cookie cutter, right? Like we're just going to put them into the public school so that all 3-year-olds are learning the same thing at all times. It's hard enough to think about kindergartners, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, every first grader learning exactly the same thing at exactly the same time. And regardless of how engaged they are in writing that poem in English, when that bell rings, they stop, right? And because now it's math time. So now they have to go to math. And so to think about them making our 4-year-olds do that and our 3-year-olds do that, it's just, it's a big struggle for me.
It's a huge struggle. It's criminal based on the child development, right? It's not developmentally appropriate.
Right. I don't know who's in charge of any of this. I mean, I've said for years, can I please go work for the Maryland State Department of Education and help them understand what is developmentally appropriate, what a classroom looks like, what children actually need. So I walk this fine line of, yes, there are regulations and policies and things like that I have to follow to be able to be a state, be licensed within the state. But when there's wiggle room, I'm going to take it. And the curriculum is one of those places where it's not, okay, this is the theme we have to talk about this week and this week, and these are the objectives. It's based on the children and how is it flowing for them. If they want to talk about planting and growing for 8 weeks, we're going to talk about it. We're going to keep going with that. There's no bell
Nice.
as far as we're concerned, as far as when that topic has to be stopped. And I think that's
beautiful.
A big problem in education across the board, regardless of whether you're talking about early childhood or whether you're talking about the primary grades.
Yes.
It's an issue.
Big time. Big time. And like you said, even just with the bell and then you go to the next subject, something you do, Sue, I know I'm doing at my center, and you do this with your clients too, is we incorporate the academic in what we're doing, all of it. Like when we're gardening, we're doing math and science, and we're doing and language arts when we draw and label. We're doing all those academics. And I don't see that when I see friends going through public schools here with the bell that changes to the next subject. They could be incorporating it all within each other. And, you know, they can soak it up in a new way.
Think of to go back to the Finnish model, you know, in the Finland system of, which surprised me because, and I'm going based on, I think, a documentary that I watched. So, you know, take it for what it is. But what surprised me was that you have this, I think there's advantages in a country like Finland. Obviously, it's like a very homogenous society. It's small, you know, it's kind of culturally similar. So there's some advantages there. But what surprised me was the autonomy that teachers had. Well, two things is a teacher had to be have a master's degree to teach, which was interesting, but that they were allowed to kind of create their own curriculum, you know, and so you think of like a socialist country, they're going to have like, but is very interesting to me that the teachers had a lot of freedom, and then and never really teaching to test or standardized tests, and yet these children are still outperforming other countries that are trying to do that, which
of course they are.
Something, right? It says something about that good balance of like, look, we have some expectations here, and that comes from the principal's ability to fire the teacher, right? So they don't have like the same sort of setup of teachers unions. So when your ass is on the line, there's a strong incentive to deliver. When there are no repercussions, like I'm making my, you know, $75K no matter what I do. I could be a bad teacher, be a good teacher, but when you can lose your job, you know, and that's also fascinating to me. And then coming from Chicago, it's just like how many teachers are, I think they're making like the first or second highest salaries in the country, and every year perennially at the rock bottom of results. And so I think incentives play a big deal in that. You have this great combination of like autonomy, but it comes with the responsibility of, well, deliver. It's up to you. We're going to trust you. You're the professional. We're going to trust our teachers, and there'll be, you know, a consequence if they don't deliver. I think that's the best mix.
I like that.
Sense?
I mean, I get it. It makes sense.
What is that consequence, right? So here, where we've got the standardized testing and things like that, right? The consequence, like teachers are tenured here. So they work for a period of time and they're tenured. They basically cannot be fired. And the only thing that their success is what the results of their standardized tests are. So I wish we could get back to, you know, a child's success is not based on what that standardized test looks like. A teacher's success is not based on what the children's scores of those standardized tests are. We need to find a different way to define success.
Absolutely.
Amen.
No,
absolutely.
Absolutely.
And that's when we bring back in the family unit. How is your child performing at home? Are they happy going home? Do they like coming to school? How's your family receiving your child? You know, there's a lot of avenues to take when it comes to,
and we haven't even brought up necessarily that. I mean, we're kind of talking about school options, but the very real thing of school choice, like in a formal way, like schools competing, which I think is huge. That's
big out here. Yeah.
Like in anything, you know, cell phone that I have here, it's like they get better because there's a bunch of companies that are competing, and you know, that lack of competition when you have a monopolized school system, it just, nothing gets better. I mean, the same people that are opposing monopolies on every level, like we don't want, you know, Walmart to take over. We didn't want we don't like these monopolies, but somehow people are cheering for the monopoly of education, and they don't realize that that's what they're doing. And if we don't have this ability to like choose, because the choosing will hold people's feet to the fire. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
incentives, I think, also go into that level of like, and you hear these horrible stories of parents that are disciplined or jailed or fined for, taking their child to a school in a neighboring district and doing whatever they have to do for their child. Like, I don't want to, my financial situation is I'm living in this, gang infested area or what have you, or the schools aren't doing what I want for my child. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to get punished.
Right.
Something wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a demand there. My friend has a very successful business out here. She's been doing it over 20 years, where she is the middleman for that. When people move into neighborhoods, they want to get in another
Wow.
school. She has to set up all the paperwork because it's a huge logistical thing. But the need, she said, is it's overwhelming how her business grew. And I'm like, that's huge. When people, they can't afford to live in the neighborhoods with the good schools.
Right.
And then they can't get in them either. And so there's this push-pull. So more choices is a good thing, I think.
Choice
And
is
I think
always
that's
gonna
why
be a
I
good thing.
champion the programs and I champion enrichment, because at least get the child a spark. Give them something
Yeah.
to live for and strive for. If they are stuck in some certain systems, give them something. Give them something. You don't run ragged and have every hour of the day planned, but still find what is their innate ability. What do they like? And nurture that. There
I
you
don't
go.
think there's a lot of that happens anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think
that's
that,
sad.
I don't
Yeah.
think we're asking those questions as parents. I don't think we're asking those questions as educators. In this area, in our area, there's not a lot of choices, because their days are so scheduled. There isn't a time for what is important to you. It is, you wake up, you go to school, you eat breakfast, you're there for 9 or 10 hours a day, and then you go after school, depending on the time of year. You've got your older siblings' sports that you're going to. We're grabbing some fast food on the way. We get home, you might get a bath before you go to bed, and you start the whole thing over again. So, and I'm not saying that's across the board, but it's just,
but it's everywhere. Yeah.
It's everywhere. And it's over the years, I have seen it get, so much worse as far as that's concerned. And again, I just look at it as, okay, people want their children to be in sports, so they'll be great. So then they can get scholarships to go to college, which is just more indoctrination. So
and they'll be burnt out by then anyway.
Absolutely.
They're not going to want to go to college.
You said something about the spark, and that's, to me, that's what we try to do here. Like, even though they're little, right? We go, we're growing up and learning is fun. Like, we want to facilitate that spark, so that when they do go to that bigger setting, that hopefully they are excited about learning and using their voice. So
the sports thing, the sports thing is really interesting. I'm currently getting my recertification, and I'm actually studying athletic performance right now, for children. And there does seem to be, it's like nowadays there's specialty, like they get the, kid in like one sport and try to drill the hell out of this one sport. And the irony, what I've discovered in kind of just researching this, if you look at someone like Michael Jordan, who I'm a huge fan of, like, he's played all sports when he was young. Like, some of the greatest athletes in a single sport, they grew up playing everything. And there's somehow this false belief that if you specialize a child, and it's almost like you're counting on that. It's like, all right, you're going to get that scholarship, but it's first of all so rare to become a pro in a sport. It's extremely rare. But what you're actually doing, though, is you're actually sacrificing so much along the way by not allowing them to explore and entertain other things. So this idea of specializing is also, I think, a modern phenomenon, where even when, in the 80s when we were kids, Heidi, but you go back further, it was everybody played everything.
Yeah. Even if you were really good at one thing.
Everything. We used to be on the playground, girls would be on the, team with, like, we're just kind of, everyone's just playing every sport. And then you figure it out when you're older what you're good at. But now they're already like, you're going to be the pitcher for the Dodgers.
That's right.
You're like, and these kids are just, you're funneling them into one thing. And I just think that's just a recipe for disaster. That hardly ever works out.
Right.
And
Even
the
if they're
sum
into
total
it,
of it is
if you
terrible.
make them do it, they might then, never mind, I don't want to do it.
And they might even resent it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, Jesus, like, my God. I mean, look,
Aw.
it is what it is. I mean, maybe a child just, that's all they want to do. That's a different thing than this is all we're allowing you to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You're going to be this no matter what, damn it.
Mhm.
Right.
So, yeah, there's all of these things that, God, and screens, we're going to talk about screens and AI. And
Oh, I
I mean,
know.
like, where is that going to go? I think that there's always going to be need for questions. And so at the end of the day, for me, it's just like, look, the future is going to do what it's going to do, technologically speaking, but a creative and critical thinker will be able to work with that. So whether
Yes.
it's, okay, AI, like when the calculator came along, it's not like we didn't expect people to try to out math the calculator. Like, you just know how to work the calculator,
Mm-hmm.
know how to work know what prompts to put in. You're going to like a thinker is going to still be needed. You're still going to need to be a critical, in fact, more of a critical thinker in the days ahead, right? Because you're going to need discernment. You're going to be able to sniff
Huge.
out, like, is that an AI
Yep.
generated thing, or what is that? Or question the answer you're getting from the AI. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're always going to have a need for critical thinking. So when people talk about technology, it's like, yeah, but the answer is always going to be to create critical thinkers. So education should always center on that, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the speaking up, because you both have said the same point, especially but making sure the child's empowered enough to speak up, to ask these
Sure.
questions or be able to speak up and put their boundaries up. Yeah, that's pretty huge. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I think I had scrolled up a little fast. I don't think it was a question, but it was a really nice point. Thank you again to those in the chat. I'm seeing you there. Well, I do like that Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. The thought is if teachers keep teaching the next generation of teachers, the knowledge is slowly lost, teacher to teacher, not good. That's why I think we have to resonate at a certain frequency and really just be there for the child. We're there for the betterment of the child. And all the things we're discussing, I mean, comes down to their foundation at home and that early childhood foundation that they get. And that's why, I was really excited to chat with you too, Sue, because I know you're putting your heart into it. If the director of a center is there for the betterment of the child, it will amplify throughout the center. Because I have been in those that are not, or they're just there and it's awful. It's like, oh my gosh, it's sludgy. The children are upset. It's abusive. So if we can, focus on the early childhood foundation, we focus on the choices and meet the child where they're at. I think we're gonna, a successful future there. Although I am alarmed to hear that. I didn't know that on the East Coast that there weren't a lot of options like charters and homeschooling and all that kind of stuff. Because even when we were talking about doing this, you're like,
yeah, it's just it's not as readily accepted, I think, in this area for sure. I think it's changed a little bit since the pandemic. I think there were some people that, went private school, some that did decide to do the homeschool. So I hope that things can change. And certainly, we are working to continue to make a difference and be different. A lot of people call what I do daycare. I choose the word childcare because I like to put person first, because I think that what we do is about the child. It's not, there's so much more to what we do than, just watching children during the day. So
totally. And the result is the child, which the family can see. Are they happy? Are they thriving?
absolutely.
Is their light on? Are they a spark?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
as you can see, we're on 2.5 acres. We get outside a lot. It's such an important part of our day. So really focusing on the children.
Hi, Joe.
Hi, Joe. Welcome, Joe. And little Heidi Hopium to throw in there is I have been in a little bit of a bubble in that sense because I'm like, well, this is going to be everywhere. We do follow Rudolf Steiner, like a Waldorf type curriculum, but it's a homeschool enrichment center. So it's almost like that pressure of them with the academics is almost off, but you're always going to have pressure. You want the child to be, engaged as much as possible. I think we just resonate with the way Steiner works with the mind, body, will of the child. That's the Steiner pedagogy philosophy. But But my bubble is that we go through 8th grade and I'm watching with this middle schoolers now process what's the next step going to look like, because high school that's where I have my limits like you have in the East Coast. We don't have a lot of choices. There's the charters, there's the extremely expensive Waldorf high schools. That's ridiculous. That really are kind of pushing the woke agenda too. And then there's people like myself, like I tote for that independence, the Waldorf enrichment, but to teach my own kids at home, hell no, they want mom. I'm not their teacher.
Right.
So I have to see what is the next step for her and what's that going to look like. So this is very much unfolding and it's an ongoing conversation. But the bubble is that I do see the magic. I see what is working. Now, I've been on shows talking about the woo-woo, but this is not a woo-woo facility. These are not children that say, I'm telepathic and I'm coming to see them. There's some of those in there. It's more of the natural, like you were saying, Sue, organic, child-led, and it's fully immersive. And that's where I just wish, somehow the indoctrination, the state-run schools, I mean, we got to just dismantle the whole thing and rebuild, but the immersive education where they use all their senses and they become empowered by achieving these little goals along the way. I think that is the art of an education system that just needs a little more nurturing and a little more love for the grades. And then I'm definitely more receptive to the early childhood. I mean, that's a necessity. And watching some of the families out here, even myself included, I was not capable of, I was trained in early childhood, but I had such postpartum. I was like navigating the household, doing all these things, and then expecting to be that caregiver who was really paying attention to my child and giving them the age appropriate skills, games and things. My hat's off to you, Sue, for doing the big work out there. And we need more of those. More of you, please.
Yeah. Amen.
That was a lot of my thoughts at once. I guess we're going to
Amen.
slowly kind of wind it down here. Hi, Rosie. I see you too. Mind, body, will of child is so important. Absolutely. And John Paul, I saw you say this before. Grounded, the present moment. Totally. That's why I love, Sue, when you said you had the outdoor time. I think that's pretty huge. Even city schools, they can have an opportunity to get out.
Massive.
Hit those likes, right, Timoth, Well, as we wind it down a little bit, are there any points we didn't get across, or maybe something you wanted to share with anybody who comes across this, or, where do you stand now with education? Is your heart full of hope, or are you like shields up, like blocking out the dark? I was like 10 questions at once. Just tell me your last minute thoughts.
I am hopeful, but I do think, it's kind of like, I feel like Wonder Woman some days, like I'm like battling like this. I'm trying to, battle some of those, the darkness, that's trying to seep in, in this area, but we're going to keep on keeping on and, just doing what's best for the children every single day.
Would you ever bring any animals? I just forgot to ask that before. Like little goats or like little chickens or.
So our neighbors have chickens, which is amazing. Cool. So the children do get to visit them. Cool. We do have a golden retriever that's kind of like our mascot. He roams the grounds all the time. The children love him. So yes, I mean, we have definitely considered doing chickens or something like that. But since we're, kind of,
you don't have to hold them then. They're right next door. Yeah,
that's right. They're right next door. Perfect. So, but who knows what the future will hold, but we are definitely, just steaming ahead as far as, just trying to bring back some of those experiences for them.
Yeah. I think that's really beautiful. What about you, Loris? Because you've been really nose deep in even curriculum. I don't know if we can say that yet, but
yeah.
Your chips are all
the last couple of years for me, I've gained a whole new respect for that, the curriculum side of things. Before coming aboard with Rainbow Chefs Academy, I was very ignorant to that, just the development of it and how much goes into it. So the curriculum writers that I've worked with, they're incredible people, and the amount of time that goes into that and crafting a good curriculum is staggering. I have to remain hopeful. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I couldn't get up in the morning with some hope. For me, when you have direct feedback from a family that, tells you how much you've helped them and that you've changed their life, or when you see what you can do just for one kid, much less hundreds of kids. That's huge. You can't stop that's addictive for me. The first time I went to an Operation Tone Up event where, I was at one in person because I had been working on the music. I was telling you this, Heidi, like I went to one of the fittest school challenges that we had, 14 schools and kids in the gym exercising and singing along to the music that I wrote. It was really overwhelming and powerful. And so if you're not out there trying for that, what are you doing? That's just what it is. It's easy to become cynical, but if we each one teach one, right? So the big message, it's like anyone out there, if you've got something of value to share it. If you can brighten a kid's day, just do it. Those little things, like it's the right words said at the right time for kids. I will say that a little goes a long way to not become cynical and jaded at everything. That's all we can do.
Yeah.
Everything else, it's, we're just a part of it. And any of us three here or anybody else out there listening can be the person that, changes thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds, a million lives. We don't know. So keep going.
Yay.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. And I just a tiny little add on, all the stuff that happens in the world today, and parents may be knee deep and nose deep and looking at it all. It's not up to you to educate your children about it right now. It's about making them the strongest they can be so they can traverse all that's going to come. And that's confidence, that's empowerment, that's trust, that's respect, compassion, empathy, all those beautiful traits of human nature is what we need to focus on with these kids right now. We don't have to be like, well, the bad guys are over there and we got to teach you how to, the stronger you can get their voice and the clearer you can make their voice be, they're going to be all right. They're going to be fine. They're going to speak up. And
Amen.
That's what we want.
Right.
Yay. Well, thank you so very much. I know we have, let me see where I had that there. You folks, you can find Lawrence at kidsgethealthy.com. I do that. I have that right here. You can also reach him at Lawrence at kidsgethealthy.com. And you can also check out Rainbow Chefs Academy. We have that little sucker up here. And then Lawrence and I do. It's been a minute because we've been so busy. We have 25 episodes of the Kids Health series up, and that's on Rumble and Rumble and YouTube and X and Facebook Live events. But you can find most of our topics that we cover are on his Instagram, which is Kids Get Healthy USA. And I, of course, as I was saying that, I didn't write that banner. I was like, oh, can you tell us really quick about the Rainbow Bridge, or your domes of Rainbow Bridge, Sue? Are you able to share that? Or
Sure. I mean, so it's just for right now, it's just we are looking to build some domes and hoping that eventually this will turn into a place where maybe we can have a retreat center. We are, our first thought is maybe we can have like a retreat for just our staff here at the center, which I think would be amazing. But we'd love to be able to continue building and be able to do, whether it's educational retreats or whether it is spiritual retreats, just a safe place where people can ground and, just come into nature.
I love that. I bring that up because, you have so many plates twirling, but it is for the betterment of humanity. You're trying to give these things to others. It's not like this is going to be mine now and no one can come to my rainbow dome. Like you're doing things for others. And I love that. Both of you, you're the most selfless, caring peeps out there. You've made your careers in helping others, children especially. So I got big old hats off to you. Did I do this right? PeterPanLearningCenter.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. There's Miss Sue there. And I just want to thank again our lovely chat. I know our mods stepped off to go to their show, which I'll go chime in and say hi. Thank you, Joe Fox. And thanks for that lovely chat. I saw you all engage with each other too. I'm sorry I didn't get to each and every one of you, but I do really appreciate that community building. I love seeing some friendly faces, and I saw some new ones too. So that was pretty cool. And we'll have to take another conversation again. So thank you both, Sue and Lawrence. Thank you very much for playing.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for
Heidi.
being
Good to
here.
meet you, Sue.
Yes, nice meeting you, Lawrence.
Yay. And we'll see you all very soon at Synaptic Circle. Actually, be next Friday. I'm going to get my consistent day down, I swear. And as far as our 26 episode Kids Health, we're not sure yet. Soon.
It's
But
coming.
I hope y'all like seeing us up on here
Awesome.
today. So we'll see y'all very soon. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.